operate a refinery in an environment of severe pollution, tapped pipelines, kidnappings, and especially in times of climate change and increasing public awareness of the need for alternative energy sources, one is quick to ask, how can Nigeria's future continue to advance in this 21st century? That will be answered in the documentary you are about to see.
Hundreds of feet beneath Nigeria's surface lies a natural resource that could transform the country's fortunes. Nigeria is sitting on 37 billion barrels of oil, enough to power the country for 273 years. The oil itself has excellent qualities. It is low in sulfur, easy to blend, and relatively straightforward to drill. But the oil is both a blessing and a curse. In some countries, the discovery of oil has brought unprecedented wealth and development. In other countries, the discovery of oil leads to economic stagnation, inequality, and corruption. It is sometimes called the paradox of plenty, and economists call it the resource curse.
Countries with abundant natural resources tend to have challenges with economic growth and worse development outcomes when you compare them with countries with fewer natural resources. The curse is not in the oil itself. I think it's in how it has been managed.
Just a decade after oil was discovered in 1957, it was a major factor tearing Nigeria apart in civil war. Since then, production has seldom exceeded 2 million barrels a day. Many economists blame the state-owned oil industry.
These are state-owned refineries. And we know what the story of the refineries has been over the last 10 years. They have been underperforming grossly, and they have become a major liability.
And oil money also fuels the corruption and unrest that has long plagued the country. The problem of oil theft by militant groups is endemic in Nigeria. By some estimates, 15% of all the crude produced in the country is stolen and sold on the black market. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, or NNPC, runs 4 refineries that operate at a fraction of their capacity. The newest is 4 decades old.
Oil does not have to be a curse. I think it's more truthful to say for Nigeria, oil has been a wasted opportunity. It did not really need to be that.
It means that almost all of Nigeria's petrol, diesel, and heating fuel has to be imported, despite the country having the world's 10th largest reserves of oil. So the biggest producer of crude oil in Africa finds itself still stuck with imported fuel. Nigeria imports 90% of products like petrol and diesel, swapping its price export for petroleum products that people need in their everyday lives. That puts the naira under pressure, as it all has to be paid for in foreign currency.
Everybody now is just thinking about oil, oil, oil. Whereas what we're supposed to have done with this oil was to use this oil and now expand the economy.
But one man is dreaming of a Nigeria where oil is a blessing to businesses and to people. This would be a Nigeria that is self-sufficient in fuel. And he has got around $19 billion in financing backing him up. Next year, his new privately owned refinery is due to come online, producing 650,000 barrels a day. In theory, it could meet all of the country's fuel needs and have enough left over for exports. The scale of this place is incredibly imposing, to say the very least. Photos do it absolutely no justice. You just have to see it in person. It's more like a very big city instead of just a project. I am Abisola Owolawi for Rise News, and I am investigating how Nigeria's oil riches became a curse and finding out if they can be transformed into a blessing. These are the latest pictures of Nigeria's oil showpiece for Dangote Refinery just outside Lagos. It sparkles just like a hydrocarbon cracker. Bigger than anything in Africa. By some measures, the biggest refinery in the world. A lifelong dream for the man whose name is on every tank, truck, and control room. Aliko Dangote.
What actually inspired me is that when you look at, especially, what happened in a country like India, where, entrepreneurs and also government, they went ahead and created about 5 million barrels of oil refining per day. And this is a country that they actually don't have oil at all. And we are here now sitting on over 2.4 million barrels at a point, and we don't refine any of this oil.
It has been hailed as an opportunity to get Nigeria's oil industry back to where it needs to be. Modern, efficient, producing petrol, diesel, jet fuel, and liquid gas. For a country that has the world's 10th largest oil reserves yet has to import most of its fuel because the refineries are broken.
Where you have a country with over 200 million and we're importing 100% of what you consume, is this not sustainable? If you go to a lot of areas, maybe in my village or your village, you'll see that petrol stations, they are not working. So we now realize that, yes, why? Because the petroleum products that we're having is hand to mouth. Whatever that we have is what we are consuming. So this actually, pushed me into saying that, look, you know what? This is a big challenge. It's a big issue. Somebody has to address it, and we will take the challenge of addressing this issue.
That's the vision, and that's the reason for switching on the 650,000 barrels a day state within a state, covering 2,500 hectares. That is more than 6,000 football fields. There is no doubt it will work. It has been designed and built and will be operated by some of the best brains and most skilled engineers on the planet. And it will do so as cleanly and efficiently as any plant that works with fossil fuels.
Ordinarily, setting up a 650,000 barrels per day refinery is usually a project that is set up by sovereign countries, not by individuals, no matter how big you are, no matter how big the company is.
This refinery that we built is very, very important. It's going to help to transform not only the oil sector in Nigeria, no, it will transform the entire economy of Nigeria. It will put millions of people directly and indirectly. It will put them at work. It's true. Somebody will say, well, okay, well, it doesn't. It does. Because it's going to massively transform the economy. By transforming the economy, government will have more money in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of infrastructure. So it is going to be a massive transformational stuff.
Yet the size of Dangote's business gamble is enough to dwarf the superlatives that flare up in descriptions of the oil refinery itself. And it is Nigeria's gamble too. It is not a white elephant because it does exactly what it says on the tanks. But as ever in Nigeria and the oil industry, wherever there are big reserves of the black stuff, politics is never far away.
Because the public sector don't have what it takes to manage such an enterprise on a sustainable basis. because you have a structure that is being managed by bureaucrats and politicians.
It makes me feel terrible to see a country as big as Nigeria, as resourceful as Nigeria, and with this sort of population that we have, 200 million plus, and we're importing all our petroleum products. I mean, it is very, very, very painful. So with that, I think in mind, and I said that, look, this thing, somebody has to address this issue. We tried before in 2007, like what I said earlier on, but government of that day changed their minds, and then we jettisoned the idea and returned them. But right now we came back with the support of the government to make sure that, yes, we help in addressing this issue of not only Nigeria, because you see, people are forgetting what will happen after this refinery when it is completed.
What Nigeria's government and its national oil company are proclaiming is that turning on the Dangote refinery will be a farewell to politics, corruption, and just simply not doing things well at the expense of business and ordinary people. In fact, the national oil company likes it so much that it has taken a 20% stake. The shared goal of Dangote Corporation and the Nigerian authorities is to create a more prosperous and a more stable Nigeria. But can this massive $19 billion refinery help win the country off its dependence on imported oil products?
But that oil thing, that yes, oil $100, and everybody say, okay, fine, yes, we're happy with it. No, we shouldn't be, because tomorrow people might not need oil. So if you stick to oil, when people are transiting from oil to something else, then we'll have issues. And we shouldn't have issues with over 200 and something million people and growing at 3%.
Aliko Dangote needs no introduction. The plaques and awards covering the walls of his office speak to a long career of making an impact on the world stage. Africa's richest man is not ostentatious. His clothes and his offices are not flamboyant, and the corporate headquarters of the Dangote Group, one of the world's most important companies, is modest. He says nowadays he's motivated by different goals than just making more money.
Because, I'm a Nigerian and I've benefited quite a lot from Nigeria, and if there are issues to be sorted out, I should be one of those people who will now bring solutions to our national problems. And, so it's one of the things that I actually took upon myself, that at least while I'm alive, let us try and address some of these issues, one of which is this importation. And when you look at it, it's not only Nigeria. All sub-Saharan African countries are importing petroleum products. Is that what it's supposed to be? No. So who is going to address it? Is it government responsibility alone? No. It's like what they say, that you can't clap with one hand. So we have to be, the other hand, where we'll partner with government and make sure that we address these issues.
And so, as 64-year-old Dangote nears the age where most people would be considering a retirement, instead, he has embarked on perhaps the most ambitious project of his life. It is a huge project in a country where most oil companies would shy away from making massive investments. But Dangote has decided to roll the dice one more time.
Everything has risks. There's political risks, the risks of exchange rate movement, the risk of nationalization. There's a risk that so many things, but I don't think, basically, in project finance, you have the land, you have the technology, you have the completion risk of the construction, and then you have the infrastructure that backs it up. So things that could go wrong. Nigeria could decide to go the wrong direction. So, but there's political, social, and other risks, but basically, this is what we need. Right? We need this more than anything else.
It is very, very challenging project. It is huge, This is the biggest site today in Africa, and definitely one of the biggest in the world today as we speak. We did not have a clue of how big and how enormous this project is going to turn out. It's huge in the sense that at a point at our site today as we speak, we have more than 40,000 people that are working at the site today, and we are going to ramp up that to almost about 57,000 people.
So now we head into the refinery complex. To cut through some intense Lagos traffic, it is much easier to go with a helicopter. From up here, alongside some aerial beauty, you can also get a bird's eye view of some of the infrastructural ills that have plagued Nigeria for decades. On the ground at the massive refinery, it looks like a scene from a science fiction movie. Vast megastructures, huge towers, concrete and steel everywhere. The project's engineer has offered to show me around and explain how the plant takes in raw crude oil and turns it into the petrol we put into our cars, as well as many other valuable things. This mega factory, one of the world's largest, is more like a city, a vast monument to the black gold that drives the world's economy.
So the crude is coming here and it gets stored here, okay? And these are the crude tanks. And this is the pump station, what you can see. From here, the crude is drawn and then it is pumped through all these pumps to further processing in the crude distillation unit.
Right, and how long does this process take itself?
The process...
Is this just...
Yeah, it's once it is on, it's a continuous process.
Right.
It's not it's very fast,
Yeah.
The pumping capacity is so high, it gets drawn. Here there is no process. This is just the crude that is stored here. And this is further sent to for further processing, because crude will have a lot of impurities. The idea of refining is to remove the impurities. So once you receive the crude, this needs to be further processed for refining. So this from here, it goes through the pipeline after pumping to the one what you see there, that is the crude distillation unit.
Yeah.
That huge one, the tall one.
Really,
that is the heart of the entire plant.
Right.
That is the crude distillation column. Understand? So the crude which is going, it is heated up.
Right.
From process point of view, it is heated up because it will have a mix of various hydrocarbon compounds having different volatility and boiling point. You can separate them once you boil them at each of the substructures in the compound. It will get separated as it goes up the distillation column. So the basic fundamentals of this is distillation, which is achieved through the difference in the boiling points of the various compounds within the crude.
Right.
So once you heat and then process into that, then you will start getting the different raw products.
Right.
Of course, there will be further treatment of that to refine and remove most of the impurities, and then to achieve the final product.
Yeah. It is massive. It's very, very imposing. I can imagine how much time it took to build.
You want me to say?
Yes, please.
It took 5 hours to erect that.
5 hours?
Yes. We have used a 5,000 capacity crane.
Okay.
Okay. To assemble the crane, it took 3 months. To assemble the crane, it has come in 200 containers by sea, and it came to the jetty, which you are going to see further. From there, it has been brought by the road, and then they have been segregated all the materials, and the assembly of the crane was done. The capacity of the crane is 5,000 ton, which is one of the 3 available in the world.
They call it a refinery, but it is really much more than that. This power station could light up the whole of Lagos and still have many, many kilowatts left over. Everywhere you look, you see heavy machinery, diggers, cranes, and massive towers. It is enough to make you feel quite small.
We have seen the pumping station from where the crude is coming for the further processing. So, and I told you it has got lots of impurities like salt, minerals, metals, all those things. So it's essential to remove all those things as much as possible so that the further treatment can be minimized, and then you need not treat really the impurities. If the impurities are off, then you have the real one to be treated further for processing, right? So that is the purpose. So this is the crude distillation unit, the entire thing. This is around 750 meter by 400 meter wide, this entire complex of crude distillation unit. And then the salts and are removed by something called desalter, okay, where it is heated, electrolysis is done so that salts gets removed. And then it is allowed for a pre-flash. There is a pre-flash column where the lighter products are separated already. And then the further treatment, you need to heat it up further to higher temperature, up to 360 degrees centigrade. So for that you got, these are the heaters. These are the 3 heaters which have come from different parts of the world, okay, from India, Vietnam, from there, and Korea. And they have been brought in modular form. Right. All these heaters, what you see, the gigantic structure, has come primarily in 3 parts.
So what's that?
That's the crude distillation column. What you saw there, yeah, it's 112 meters height, 112 meters height, and 12 meters diameter. You know, weighing 2,350 tons, which was erected by 5,000 ton capacity crane. This is the one. The crane was standing on the other side, and then it was erected. So we had to keep several other structures under hold, not progressing on the construction, because it was necessary to erect first this column, then only you will be able to erect other things. Otherwise there will not be enough space for the column to get erected. Understand? You know, we have a captive power plant which caters for the entire power requirement of the refinery. Okay, and that is much in advanced stage, it is 94% completed. So the power from there is distributed to various units depending on the need of the units. So as you can see here, so many motors, pumps are all there around. They all need power. So that power is coming from there to the substation. From the substation, the wiring is done, the cabling is done to various motors. Okay, that is how the electrical is done.
And then the crane.
Yeah, the crane.
And you have so many of them as well.
Yeah. They're all Dangote's cranes.
Yeah.
So all the cranes with higher than 250 ton capacity, what you see around is all our own equipment. Plus we have 75 ton others also. The idea of having higher capacity crane is to provide necessary support to the contractors to speed up the job. And because it is a capital investment for them, for a single project will not be worthwhile. Whereas for us in the mass, it will be good to have the cranes, and then we can have our own construction company going forward.
This is the interconnection of about 20 projects that we are running in parallel and at the same time. So the dimension, the size, is already a huge complexity that we have to face. Someone used to say that the bigger is the window, the highest is probability that a bird is flying in through. So even the number of things that they can get wrong and that need to be mitigated during the course of it are enormous.
This complex is unlike any other structure I've visited. It is mind-blowing to think of all the man-hours, materials and money that have gone into the construction. The goal is to finish everything by early next year, which looks like an ambitious target. But as they say, many hands make light work. 40,000 hands to be precise. The refinery is home to engineers, analysts and experts from around the world, which is common in large infrastructure projects. But in this plant, every foreign hire has to be matched by 4 Nigerians in an attempt to build skills and capacity in the local population.
Well, I think when you look at it, one thing that really gives me quite a lot of joy is that when we started the project, we were meant to bring in a lot of foreign workers. But as we speak today, we brought in just still less than 11,000. And then it means that we have almost about 28,000 to 29,000 Nigerians that are getting massive training. We are also creating a lot of capacity in the country. Whereas now, anybody who is doing this kind of project, or now with the opening up of this oil industry by the president signing the Petroleum Industry Bill, it means that we will have people who will actually be gainfully employed once we jumpstart this, bill. I mean, as we speak today, most of these guys, they can compete anywhere in the world, in terms of electrical, in terms of welding, mechanical, erection. We have actually created massive capacity.
Engineer Ifenyuwa Nduka is one of the beneficiaries of this program, and she's offered to show me around one of the huge structures.
The main source of power generation from this unit is from the regenerator. So the reactor operates at like a temperature of 525 degrees C, which is so high. And the regenerator, yes, operates at 735 degrees C, which is also high. So instead of just venting such a high temperature flue gas, to the atmosphere, we can actually utilize it. So a lot of, heat integration and energy efficiency is also happening in this unit. So the hot flue gases that would have been sent to the atmosphere is used to generate steam, and it's stepped down again to use for power generation at the expander as well. And also the catalyst we use here too can also be used for cement manufacturing as well. So basically nothing goes to waste here.
Ife clearly loves her job and is especially excited about the environmental credentials of this plant. The oil industry has a reputation as a dirty business, but this plant will be one of the cleanest around, and dealing with the byproducts of the distilling process isn't just good for the planet, it is good for the company's bottom line as well.
So a new technology came to be to actually process this hydrocarbon that would just have been a waste to more useful petroleum products. So this unit is also called the money-making machine of the refinery, or the cash cow of the refinery. So this bottom from the crude distillation unit comes here. So it's also called bottom because they are long-chain hydrocarbons. So this unit actually breaks it into smaller ones, smaller, more valuable hydrocarbons. So from there we get the gasoline, we get the diesel as well, we get polypropylene, a feedstock to the petrochemical unit, And then we also get some gases as well. I've mentioned diesel. And then we also get the bunker fuel from this unit. So and then there is also power generation, steam generation, all in this unit. So that's why I said it's a money-making machine.
So a clean plant and an efficient one. But looming on the horizon for everyone on the planet is climate change and the environment. Pressures will grow on all economies to develop electric vehicles and clean energy for industry. So, would anyone want an oil refinery, even a clean one? Many economists believe that in the medium term, it is the biggest challenge not only to oil refining, but oil dependency, which affects not just Dangote, but the entire Nigerian economy.
It will perhaps take over 20 years for Dangote to recover his investment, and though I don't see much risk in the initial 10, 15 years or so, most analysts expect we could see a very radical change in the electric vehicle and renewable space in the longer term, that is after about 15 years. The project cannot afford any more delays because, quite frankly, time is not on Dangote's side, and I'm also sure he would be thinking today of needed technology enhancements to handle biofuels and more environment-friendly options.
Other analysts say the road to renewables and electric vehicles in Africa could be a longer one, citing a lack of reliable power for charging points and other factors.
There remain a variety of practical impediments to the expansion of electric vehicles in the auto market. So electric vehicles, for example, require a consistent and affordable source of electricity. It doesn't make economic or environmental sense to charge your electric vehicle using a backup diesel generator. Additionally, electric vehicles require charging stations. So if we think of Nigeria, for example, for every single petrol station or gas station, we need an additional charging station. And because of these barriers and these requirements, we should expect there to be continued demand for both oil and oil-based products, not only in Nigeria, but across the globe for the coming decades.
For the central bank, it looks like a solution to the pressure on Nigeria's currency reserves because all imported fuels have to be paid for in dollars or other foreign currency, not in naira.
Our own selfish interest is that these will help to achieve our import substitution objective. And when you talk about import substitution, you are talking about goods that are currently being imported into the country with scarce foreign exchange, that we will now begin to produce them locally, thereby saving foreign exchange that central bank would have spent in importing or funding the import of these items.
It's not the only challenge. As you tour the site, you get a sense of the immense amount of work that has gone into the world's largest refinery. Building an industrial city of this magnitude is no small feat. But then came the COVID-19 pandemic, and it shut down industries around the world. The task here became even greater.
Most of their manufacturing facilities were shut down or affected. And, in an office we say, okay, go and work on remote, sit in your house and work. You can't manufacture any equipment sitting in the house. So they all got affected and the shipping got affected. That was the primary source for the delay. It has cost us billions of dollars, not millions, billions of dollars to invest in all this infrastructure. So our capex will almost go to 19 billion by the time we finish, of course, including the interest on the investment, the bankers' investment and all that, and the other fixed cost.
This is a project the likes of which have never been seen in Nigeria. Although it has been hampered by delays, by infrastructural problems, by COVID-19, the people behind it still believe it could transform Nigeria as a country.
So what we are doing, currently people don't understand what is the benefit of this refinery to Nigeria. It will actually even give us a currency stability, because today, as we speak, 25% of our foreign exchange goes through importation of petroleum products. So by right now, if we are going to spend something like $8-9 billion for imports, it's just not going to happen, because we have the full capacity to meet up every single thing, whether it is PMS, which is petroleum motor spirit, or diesel, or aviation fuel. We have a lot of it, and that is only 2/3 that will be able to pump. Okay, 1/3 will be able to export. By doing that export, we are going to generate a lot of foreign exchange coming into the country. So you can see the difference. Even our own, balance of trade will change. Okay, it will strengthen also the naira, because we are not going to have this massive avalanche of dollars going out to go and be importing a finished product of our own raw material.
It's a game changer for the Nigerian economy. The Dangote refinery is not just coming with only petroleum products. We have associated industries, we have the petrochemicals, and a lot of raw materials that a lot of our factories import are petrochemical based. We also have the impact on agriculture from the fertilizer point of view. Again, that's another major, because agric is a very big sector. It contributes about 23% to our GDP. So there's a whole lot of effect around the macroeconomic environment, around industrialization, around self-reliance, around backward integration that we have been longing for all day.
Pride of being part of this fantastic journey is from our side. For all of you that will be benefiting more directly about that, this is without any doubt the most transformational things that will be not only for Nigeria but for Africa in the next 10 years.
If oil had never been discovered in Nigeria, it is not clear its economic position would be any worse now. Other developing countries less blessed with oil wealth have been pulling ahead economically in the last few years. Inflation-adjusted income in Nigeria has been stagnant for a decade. China, India and Vietnam were all poorer than Nigeria in the 1990s. They are now considerably richer. The engineers behind Dangote's mega project say this refinery will transform Nigeria's oil industry. It is a transformation that has been a long time coming. And it is helped by another equally seismic movement in Nigerian politics. They call it the Petroleum Industry Act, or PIA. More than a decade in the making, this act is designed to sort out the structural problems in Nigeria's oil industry. The act is long and complex, but let's drill it down into a few details. The main aim is to make it easier for the oil industry to do business. You see lots of phrases like good governance, best practices, and a will to change the way things have been done in the past. There will be new licenses for oil exploration on Nigerian territory to try and get more of the black gold out of the ground. The Act has stronger protection for the environment, including a fund to use oil profits to support local communities where drilling is taking place. The PIA was signed by President Buhari in August 2021, bringing to an end years of political wrangling, and the chairman of Nigeria's biggest companies are delighted.
So with the signing of the bill, now people will now come and put in their own investment. They didn't actually come out to put in their own investment. They didn't invest. People were just waiting. You know, because we've been talking about this industry bill for the last 13 years. And a lot of them, you know, say, okay, fine, we'll sit by the fence. And any time when you are ready and willing to give us a very, very good incentive in terms of investment, we'll come and invest.
Dangote says the slow passage of the bill through Parliament meant Nigeria missed out on a multi-billion-dollar payday.
Before there was no clarity, you know, people were not really very ready and willing to come and put in their money. I mean, if you look at it really in the last couple of years, there has not been investment. We have lost more than 50 billion, 60 billion of worth of investments.
How long this has taken, decades for what should have taken months. And note that the legislative piece, although it's an important portion, is only a small piece of the reform pie. The institutions all need to be reconstructed with new processes, organization models, and technology. So a lot still needs to be done. There is also an apparent distrust, I think, of the private sector, which may be as a result of the contagious historical environment of corruption and distrust in the wider social environment.
With the Petroleum Industry Bill now an act, and Dangote's $19 billion refinery nearing completion, it looks like investment is back on the agenda for Nigeria's oil industry, and the government is getting involved as well. The Dangote refinery may bear the name of its founder, but it won't be solely under his ownership. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation is also taking a 20% slice. They have the rights to buy a stake in any refinery processing more than 50,000 barrels a day. Rumors are swirling that Mr. Dangote is unhappy about the offer, that he's taking all the risk while the NNPC gets to share in the rewards. But that's not what he told me.
They cannot just sit down for energy security. They cannot sit down and see this kind of massive project without them being involved in it. But when you look at it again, we are not only cooperating with them, you know, because if we are now going to go our separate ways, it won't be good for the industry. And I think it's a very, very mutual, beneficial, you know, relationship. Yeah, we welcome it, you know, and it's not going to really take them much time maybe 3, maximum 4 years, they will recoup their own, investment.
The decision will guarantee a market for Nigerian crude, 300,000 barrels a day. It will guarantee the refinery a source of oil, and perhaps it will help Nigeria overcome the problems caused by years of mismanagement. The tie-up between the Nigerian State Oil Company and Dangote Group will certainly reduce some of the risk. Some say the deal is unfair and will give Dangote a monopoly, but others believe the NNPC are right to back him.
We need large projects that can mop up vast underemployed skills and unemployed people that are there. But the local value creation also is a huge multiplier effect on smaller scale industries, which also needs to be encouraged. Indeed, we need more than a few Dangotes, and Dangote has proven a Pan-African model and execution ability which can help jumpstart the takeoff of the downstream sector, and as such I think the project must be encouraged to succeed, even if it requires much more support than we would have wanted to give initially. Dangote deserves protections given the pioneer status and all the risks that it has taken, but this should be done in a way that does not severely erode fairness, business confidence, and competitiveness.
Some observers have criticized the $2.7 billion cost of the tie-up. I put this to Dangote. He says the critics are wrong.
People keep talking about the refinery. They didn't buy only the refinery. They bought refinery with petrochemicals. So these are the things that people really don't really understand, and I want to really clarify it. And when they talk about also the 2.7 billion, they are paying 1/3 of the money. 1/3 of the money again will actually be paid through supply of crude, with the deduction of maximum about $2 some cents, and then the 1/3 of it, which is another 850, 900 million, will be paid from the profit they are going to make from the business. So it's not a cash transaction where they are paying all cash. You can see if we don't have confidence in what we are doing, we would have asked them to pay us all cash.
At every opportunity that I visit that project site, I get encouraged and I seize the opportunity of those visits to encourage even other Nigerians or other businesses, whether local or foreign, that Nigeria has a lot of potentials, and that as long as that people can contemplate this kind of projects, that they will receive the needed support from the Central Bank of Nigeria for the importation of plants and equipment.
In many ways, this refinery means that Dangote is more integral to the economic story of Nigeria than he has ever been. If it fails as a business, the damage to Nigeria could last a generation. And all through the career that has made him Africa's richest man, he has made it clear that he sees himself as part of the story and part of the search for solutions.
I care so much. I could have actually decided to do like some of my mates here in Nigeria and just keep my money in the bank and keep the money abroad. But I'm very, very passionate about Nigeria and making Nigeria great. If it's just Dangote Group making money, I would have just kept that money and participate in capital markets abroad, where yes, my money is in dollars and I'm making money. But no. We know we as a country, we have issues, we have challenges. How do we address these issues and challenges? The only way for me is not to sit and be criticizing. No, I should be part of the problem solving and also part of the change. My prayer is that I will give most of my wealth while I'm alive.
The Dangote refinery has been given full support by the Nigerian state. Some people say too much support at the expense of the free market. But its backers and many economists believe it represents the last big chance to turn the oil curse into a blessing. With global pressure for renewable sources of energy, time is running out for oil. So it's a gamble, there's no doubt. If it pays off, it will become part of global economic history, a textbook example of business-led infrastructure development. Much more importantly, it could make the lives of millions of Nigerians better. That in itself might ensure that the whole vision is too important and too big to fail. After more than 60 years of lost opportunities and a civil war, the country has a last chance to turn an oil curse into a blessing, with Dangote's game-changing refinery. Nigeria needs it now more than ever.